Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today I have this brisket, and I'm not going to do a Texas style brisket, barbecue brisket. I'm going to do something much closer to home, much closer to my heart, and that is Montreal smoked meat. Now, for those of you who don't know what Montreal smoked meat is, it is pastrami's hipper cousin. It's the cousin that comes, that speaks with an accent and is much cooler, listens to cooler bands. That is Montreal smoked meat. So I'm going to start out with this brisket, and I need to trim it down. And you never know what you're going to get when you pull one of these briskets out of the package from the grocery store. So, quite a bit of fat on here, and I'm just going to cut some of that off. I'm going to save the fat for making burgers. Okay, I think I've got this trimmed up nicely. I'm not a pro when it comes to trimming brisket by any means, but I kind of get it done. So I've got a pile of trim here. Some of that meat and some of that fat is going to end up in burgers. Meanwhile, the brisket ends up in this tub. I'm going to clean this up and we'll move on to the spice rub. The spice mix for curing Montreal smoked meat is pretty much exactly the same as Montreal steak spice, with the addition of Prague powder number 1. So if you watched the video where I made the Montreal steak spice, you've probably already seen this. So it's really quick, really easy. Pretty much the same ingredients. I've got red pepper flakes, mustard seed, coriander seed, black pepper, white pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. And we'll just grind those up in the mortar and pestle. Now, you don't have to use a mortar and pestle. You can use a spice grinder. Certainly, you can use a spice grinder. Opinions vary about how finely you want to grind this. Some people say you want to leave it fairly coarse, and some people say it needs to be a powder. I've gone fairly fine. I think that's about as fine as you can get it in a mortar and pestle. Last two ingredients are salt, and I didn't put that in the grinder because I wanted it to be fairly coarse. And then, of course, the pink salt or Prague powder number 1. Now, a few notes on Prague powder or pink salt or curing salt. This is Prague powder pink number 1. There's a number 1 and a number 2. They overlap. They're used for similar things, but for different things. They're both for curing. They're both curing salts. This one is for curing whole mussels, and Prague powder number 2 is for curing sausages or meats that you've ground up and then put into a casing. They operate slightly differently. What you need to know about the Prague powder is that the amount of Prague powder that you use is based on the weight of your piece of meat. And you have to be very careful with weighing it out. All of the rest of the spices in this mix, you can vary, you can play with it. It comes down to your personal taste. Don't mess around with this. Weigh your meat, weigh this out properly, add the right amount. It's very important. So now that I've got the spice mix all combined, we want to rub it onto the beef. And you want to use all of this spice mix so that all of the Prague powder ends up in here. So every surface needs to be coated. And get it all over. And having a big tub like this is fantastic, because any that falls into the bottom of the tub, it's easy to pick it up and get it all over. So that was a 5.5 kilo brisket after I trimmed it. And the amount of spice mix that I mixed up just covered it. It was just perfect. I could have maybe used a little bit more, but I think we'll be okay. So I'm going to leave the brisket in this tub. I'm going to stick this tub into the keg fridge, because that's the only fridge it's going to fit in. And I'm going to leave it there for 8 to 10 days. And every day I'm going to turn the brisket over. I'm going to flip it. It should release a lot of water, and I'm going to leave that water in the bottom of the tub. I'm not going to drain it out unless it's excessive, and I'll just keep flipping it over. And over that 8 to 10 days, this brisket is going to cure itself. It is day 10, and I have brought the brisket down to the brewery because I want to rinse it off as much of the spice mixture from the surface that I possibly can. And once I've got it rinsed off, I'm going to fill the container with cold water, and I'm going to let it soak for about an hour. Then I'm going to change the water, and I'll probably change the water 2 or 3 times over a 3 or 4 hour period. So this is what you get after 10 days of curing and a few hours in a cold water rinse. It's not pretty. But we're not ready to go to the smoker just yet. Even though we've rinsed off all of the cure, I'm now going to spread on more. This is just coarse cracked black pepper and coarse cracked coriander. And we just want to put this over top. I'm going to get it all over on all sides. I'm going to stick it on. We're going to put this back in the fridge, and we're going to leave it in the fridge for 12, 14, 18, 24 hours, something like that. We're going to take it out to the smoker tomorrow. The idea is you want the skin to dry out and form a pellicle, and that's going to attract the smoke, or it's going to get the smoke to stick better to the outside of our brisket. So I'm going to finish this up back in the fridge, and I will see you tomorrow out at the smoker. It is finally time to put this brisket on the smoker. So I've got this heated up to 225 degrees Fahrenheit. And because, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, this sucks at producing smoke. I've added this wire mesh smoker tray just to produce enough smoke to infuse the brisket with the flavor we're looking for. So I'm going to put the brisket on, fat side up. I'm going to put in a temperature probe somewhere in the middle. So I'll check back 5-6 hours. This might take 8 or 9, who knows. I'll let you know at the end. The brisket has reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature, and this is the point where most people are going to expect me to put on the Texas crutch. But Montreal smoked meat isn't made that way. But no, this is Montreal smoked meat, and it comes with its own tradition. So we won't be wrapping the brisket, but I will be taking it off the barbecue now. This now goes back in the fridge overnight, and we finish it off tomorrow. Here we are in the final home stretch. Look at that brisket. So now what we need to do is steam this for 3 or 4 hours. So I have here a roasting pan, the largest roasting pan that I own. I've got it here on the stovetop with a rack, and underneath the rack I've got some little bowls, and the whole thing has water in it. I'm trying to create a large enough steamer so that this can steam for 3, 4, 5 hours. I have heard that in Montreal, some of the restaurants steam for 9, 10, 12 hours, depending on the size of the brisket. So I am prepared to let this go probably 5 or 6 hours today. We'll see what happens if it fits. So in we go, just barely. And we will wrap this in tin foil to try to keep the steam from escaping. Now, I will be keeping a close eye on this to make sure that it doesn't run dry. I'll be adding more water as needed over the time of the steam. I'm really looking forward to this sandwich. See you soon. Whoa. Let's see if I can get this off onto the cutting board. It's so jello. Okay, let's cut into this and see how we did. Oh, look at that. So juicy.
Ooh, Glen, that looks great. Hey, friends. This is a long-term project that is
it's a long-term project. Okay, so as they ask in Montreal, do you want lean, fatty, a mix?
I'll have lean.
Okay. So I will start carving from this side of the lean. And it's always hand carved in Montreal. You could not put this on a deli slicer because it would just fall apart. Look at that. Now, I am not a master slicer, so it's just like Jell-O. Absolutely like Jell-O, just the way it's supposed to be. Okay. That's our homemade mustard.
This is going to be exciting. I don't know how much to put on, though. It's a mystery. I'm going to start with that much. That's going to be my starter.
Montreal smoked meat sandwich. Jules, look at that. Falling apart all over the place. Okay.
That is a huge sandwich, and of course, some chips.
Gotta have the fries. If you're at Schwartz's in Montreal, you have to have the fries. Now, I have to admit, it's a sandwich, but they pile the meat so high, I often just take a fork and start
That's probably
in on
wise.
it. Yeah.
It's a very big.
So let's just to find out how we did with the brisket.
That's really good. Mm-hmm. I would, that's a damn fine sandwich, Glen.
Yeah. Yeah. Even on the lean end.
That's a mighty fine sandwich, Glen. Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny because I know better than to just throw it all together and eat it because it's going to be way too big.
Okay, so
I'm making a total mess now. Sorry, everyone.
it's a bit of a process. It is going to take you nearly 2 weeks to make it happen.
No grace in that.
And you probably don't need to get a full packer brisket that I got. You could probably just get the point end.
Or have some friends.
Or have some friends over. But you can also, here's the other thing. You can cut this up, vacuum pack it, freeze it. And when you want to make a sandwich in an emergency, because we all have sandwich emergencies,
Yes.
you could just warm it up sous vide.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a little kid, they had
Came in packages
came in
like
little
that.
packages like that.
Little sandwich size.
Sandwich size Montreal smoked meat packages that you just boiled in water
Yeah.
and then put it out on bread. I loved those things.
All
But
right.
now I can make it from scratch.
So this is great. I want to just sit down and dig in and
Actually
since
enjoy
I
it.
very ungracefully already tried to snack on some. You're not going to get me to watch You're not going to get to watch me eat the whole sandwich.
So different than pastrami, completely different than American barbecue brisket. Excellent all around, and I would encourage everybody to at some point go to Montreal and have the real thing. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.